I gave up my promotion in Chicago to move closer to her family, but when I checked her GPS history, it showed trips she swore never happened. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? My name is Darren Cole, and I am 33 years old. I used to believe love meant trust until I learned that trust can also blind you. When I first moved for Emma, everything felt right. I'd left my city job, my friends, and even my apartment just to give us a quieter life. She said she needed stability, something simple. I thought love was worth the sacrifice. But lately, peace had turned into silence, the kind that hides secrets. Emma's laughter used to fill our mornings, soft and warm. Now she woke up early and left without breakfast. Her excuses were casual: early meeting, extra work, helping a friend. At first, I believed her. People change, routines shift, but what never changed was how my gut twisted every time she walked out the door. One night, I cooked her favorite pasta. She came home late, makeup smudged, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. I asked if she'd been out with coworkers. She laughed, kissed my cheek, and said, "You worry too much." I wanted to believe that laugh, but it felt empty, like a cover story rehearsed too many times. I started noticing small things after that. Receipts from gas stations far outside town. Her phone always face down, locked, silent. When I'd ask about her day, her answers came fast, too perfect, too smooth. I told myself it was stress, nothing more. But the quiet between us grew heavier every night. On weekends, she claimed to visit her sister, but her bag always looked too heavy for a one-night stay. I asked once if I could come. Her reaction was instant, sharp, defensive. "You don't need to babysit me, Darren." That hurt more than I expected. Not the words, but the tone, like I'd accused her of something real. At work, I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I wondered if it was her lying again. Every time she texted, "Love you," I found myself reading between the words, looking for the truth that wasn't there. Then one night, I noticed something strange. She'd left her car keys on the table after another late meeting. Her phone was charging beside them. I picked up her keys absent-mindedly, flipping them in my hand. That's when I saw it. The GPS tracker built into her car fob blinked faintly. I didn't touch it that night. I just stared at it, knowing the tiny light might hold every answer I'd been avoiding. The next morning, while she showered, I sat in the car, scrolling through the GPS history. My breath caught when I saw it. A route to a small motel 2 towns over. Not once, not twice. Repeated visits. I sat there frozen, the truth glowing back at me from the screen. She wasn't helping a friend. She was seeing someone, and that was the moment. Everything changed. The GPS history burned in my mind all day. I couldn't concentrate at work, couldn't hold a conversation without seeing those coordinates, that same address flashing in my thought. Every time my phone vibrated, I hoped it was her, some innocent explanation that could make the evidence disappear. But deep down, I knew no words could erase what I'd seen. That night, when she came home, she looked radiant, her hair freshly styled, her perfume stronger than usual, her smile practiced. "You look tired," she said, running her fingers through my hair like nothing was wrong. I forced a smile and nodded. "Yeah, long day." My voice didn't sound like mine. She cooked dinner like everything was fine, humming softly as if her world hadn't just fallen apart inside my head. I watched her closely, the way she glanced at her phone, the quick flick of her thumb before locking it again. When I asked, "Who are you texting?" she smiled and said, "Chloe. She's having boyfriend drama again." Chloe, the same name she used every time she needed an excuse. I nodded but stayed quiet. It was easier to let her think I was still blind. After dinner, she said she had paperwork to finish and disappeared into the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen, pretending to clean up while my mind spiraled. The sound of her typing behind that closed door echoed like a lie. I pictured her fingers not typing reports, but messages, words she'd never say to me. I remembered all the little moments that suddenly made sense. The sudden gym membership, the new underwear, the nights she said she was staying late but came home freshly showered. Love can make you overlook the obvious. I had built excuses for her lies, brick by brick, until I was trapped inside them. Later, when she fell asleep, I picked up her phone from the nightstand. It was locked with a new password. My heart sank. She never changed it before. I placed it back quietly, realizing I didn't need to open it. The GPS already told me more than her messages ever could. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy with disbelief. How long had this been happening? Who was he? Was it someone from work? Someone nearby? I wanted to know, but I also didn't, because every answer would only hurt more. The next morning, she kissed my cheek before leaving, saying, "Don't wait up, I might be late tonight." I smiled and said, "Take your time." Inside, I was already planning my next move. I wasn't going to confront her yet, not until I had every piece of proof, every detail she couldn't twist. She called me paranoid once, said I was overthinking. Well, this time, I was going to let paranoia become precision, because when the truth came out, I wanted her to see it, not as a fight, but as evidence. Her lies were clever, but her GPS was loyal. That night, the air felt heavier than usual. She texted that she'd be working late again, followed by a heart emoji that made my stomach twist. I didn't text back. I just waited, patient, silent, pretending to believe her story like I always had. But this time, I was ready. Her car had a GPS tracker built into the fob, and I'd already seen the address she'd been visiting, a cheap motel 2 towns away. I sat in my truck in the driveway, watching the time crawl by. Every minute she stayed at work, the GPS showed her car parked in that same spot. At 9:14 p.m., she texted, "Still at the office, babe. Don't wait up." The GPS pinged again. Motel 9, Route 17. She wasn't at the office. She wasn't working. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too easy. This was colder, the kind of calm that comes when love finally breaks. I drove to the edge of town, far enough to think clearly. My headlights cut through the darkness, and I sat there, staring at the road that led straight to that motel. Every part of me wanted to drive there, to walk in, to catch her in the act, but something stopped me. I didn't want a screaming match, or excuses, or crocodile tears. I wanted proof that couldn't be denied or rewritten. So I drove back home instead. The house felt too clean, too quiet, a museum of lies. Her coat still hung by the door, her slippers by the couch. I walked over to her car and looked through the window. Papers, receipts, a phone charger, and something wedged under the seat. I reached in through the cracked window and pulled it out. A folded motel receipt. Her name, her signature. 1 room, 2 guests. I stood there under the porch light, reading it again and again until my eyes blurred. My hands shook, but my mind stayed steady. This was what I'd been waiting for. The GPS had told me the truth, and now I had physical proof in my hand. When she finally came home near midnight, she looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from pretending. "Hey, you're still up," she said softly, setting down her purse. I smiled. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." She kissed me goodnight, and I let her. I even said, "I love you," just to watch her lie with a straight face one last time. When she went to shower, I placed the motel receipt on her pillow. No note, no explanation, just the evidence she'd never escape. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the driveway, watching the stars fade. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew one thing for sure. The truth was no longer hiding. Her lies had driven her straight into her own trap. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you like this? Comment below. Morning light poured through the window, soft and deceptive. She was still asleep beside me, peaceful as if her world hadn't just collapsed. I watched her for a moment, wondering how many times she had smiled like that after spending the night in someone else's arms. When she finally stirred, she noticed the folded motel receipt on her pillow. Her eyes widened, her breath caught, and for a few seconds, she froze. Then came the act. Confusion first, then guilt disguised as anger. "What's this?" she snapped, clutching the paper like it was poison. "You tell me," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. I'd spent the night repeating every lie she'd told until they became meaningless. She tried to speak, but words failed her. "It's not what you think." She said it softly, desperately. I almost laughed. That sentence was a cliché, the anthem of every cheater caught red-handed. "Then explain the GPS," I said. Her face went blank. She looked down, pretending not to understand, so I continued. "Your car fob records every route you drive." I checked it. Same address, same nights, for weeks. "You told me you were at work, but your car was parked at a motel off Route 17. Her lips trembled. "You went through my stuff? You invaded my privacy?" That was the moment I realized how far gone she was. Not once did she deny it. She just changed the subject to make me the villain. "Privacy?" I repeated, stepping closer. "You built your lies inside my home, and now you're worried about privacy?" She dropped the receipt, tears welling up. "I was lonely, Darren. You've been distant, always working, always tired. Tyler, listen. He made me feel wanted." Tyler. The name hit like a punch. Now the ghost had a face. "You're right," I said quietly. "I was tired. Tired because I worked to give us a life. And while I was breaking my back for this house, you were breaking your vows." She sobbed then, covering her face. I didn't move to comfort her, not this time. I'd comforted her lies long enough. When she realized I wouldn't speak again, she whispered, can we fix this? I shook my head slowly. You can't fix what was never real. I left her standing there in the kitchen, her mascara running down her cheeks, the GPS truth sitting between us like a grave marker. Later that day, I copied the data. Every route, every timestamp, every lie. I saved it on a flash drive, not for revenge, but for memory. Proof that the man I used to be, the trusting, naive one, was gone forever. That night, she packed a bag and left without another word. I didn't stop her. I didn't even watch her car disappear. The GPS would record where she went next, but I no longer cared to know. The days after she left were strangely quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it just lingers, heavy and hollow. Her perfume still clung to the curtains. Her coffee mug sat untouched by the sink, and the indentation of her head on the pillow reminded me she'd once shared this life with me. But I didn't miss her. I missed the version of her that never really existed. Everyone at work noticed I'd changed. I wasn't angry or broken, just detached. My boss asked if everything was all right, and I smiled, saying, yeah, just tired. The truth was, I'd never been more awake in my life. At night, I'd replay her excuses in my head, the tone, the pauses, the way she always looked down when lying. It was strange how the pieces fit so easily now. Every late-night meeting, every friend emergency, every night she'd brushed off my questions, all perfectly recorded by that GPS, like the universe itself was tired of her pretending. I didn't delete the data. I couldn't. It was proof, not of her betrayal anymore, but of my survival. I kept the flash drive locked away in a drawer, a reminder that I wasn't crazy, that the paranoia she mocked was just truth trying to warn me. 3 days later, she called. Her voice was soft, cracked, desperate. Darren, can we talk? I could hear traffic behind her. She was crying. For a second, my chest tightened. Old habits die hard. But then I remembered every route, every timestamp, every night she said she was working. What's left to say? I asked. I messed up, she said through sobs. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I just needed someone to talk to. I almost laughed. Motel rooms aren't for talking, Emma. Silence, only the sound of her breathing. Then she whispered, can I come by? Just to explain. I paused for a moment. Sure, I said. My voice was calm, too calm. She didn't know it yet, but the confrontation she'd been avoiding was already waiting for her. That night, I cleaned the kitchen table, laid out the printed GPS map, and connected my laptop. Every route she took appeared on the screen like veins of betrayal. Dates, times, places. I wanted her to see it all. I wanted her lies to choke on their own evidence. When she finally arrived, eyes red and voice trembling, she tried to smile. You look thinner, she said. I motioned toward the chair. Sit. Her gaze drifted to the laptop, confusion spreading. What's that? Your story, I said quietly. Only this time, it's the version that doesn't lie. Her lips parted, but no words came. The calm before the confrontation was over. The storm was ready to begin. She sat at the table across from me, her hands shaking as her eyes darted to the laptop screen. The glowing map filled the silence, every red pin a place she'd gone, every timestamp a truth she'd buried under lies. I didn't speak yet. I wanted her to feel it, the weight, the stillness, the moment when deceit meets reality. Her lips trembled. Darren, what is this? I leaned back, my voice steady. It's your life, Emma. Mapped out. Every route, every night you said you were working late. She blinked rapidly, her eyes flicking between me and the map. You tracked me? No, I said coldly. Your car did. GPS doesn't lie, but you did. She covered her mouth, tears spilling before she could speak. Please, let me explain. I raised my hand to stop her. You told me I was paranoid. You made me doubt myself, question my sanity. But this, I gestured toward the screen, this tells the truth. On the map, one address flashed more than the rest. Motel 9, Route 17. Dozens of visits, same destination, same time of night. I zoomed in, watching her crumble. Her voice broke. It wasn't supposed to be like that. Tyler just listened. You were always busy, always tired. I cut her off. I was busy building a life for us. You were busy destroying it. She sobbed, shaking her head. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. My words came quiet, almost calm. And the worst part? You made me feel guilty for noticing. She looked down, shoulders shaking. I could see the realization finally hit her. This wasn't a fight she could win. Every route, every lie, every night she slipped away was right there, frozen in digital truth. Her father had been sitting quietly at the end of the table, unaware of what was coming. I'd invited him earlier, under the pretense of a serious talk. Now, his expression turned to horror. Emma, he whispered, disbelief heavy in his voice. She turned toward him, sobbing. Dad, please, it's not what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. He stood slowly, shaking his head. You always said Darren was too suspicious. I guess you were the one with something to hide. The silence that followed was deafening. She reached for my hand, crying harder. Darren, please, I can fix this. I'll do anything. I pulled my hand away. You can't fix a map, Emma. It doesn't erase roads. It just shows where you've been. Then I stood, closing the laptop. Dinner's over, I said quietly, and so are we. I walked out, leaving her with her father. The GPS map still glowing on the table, her lies laid bare, her story finally destroyed by her own history. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. After that night, the house felt different. It wasn't just empty. It was clean, like the air had been scrubbed of every lie that once filled it. Her things were still there for a few days, reminders of what I thought was love. But even her scent began to fade, replaced by something sharper, freedom. Her father called me 2 days later. His voice was quiet, tired. She's staying with her sister, he said. She's ashamed, Darren. She knows she ruined everything. I didn't respond right away. What was I supposed to say? That shame was justice? That regret couldn't rebuild trust? Instead, I simply said, I hope she learns something from it. The truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Anger needs energy, and she'd already taken too much of mine. At work, I started arriving early, staying late, not to escape, but to focus on myself again. For the first time in years, my world didn't revolve around checking in, waiting for messages, or wondering if I was enough. I was just living, quietly, intentionally. But she didn't stop reaching out. The texts began small, I'm sorry, can we talk? And grew longer, heavier with guilt. Each one was a confession wrapped in manipulation. I didn't reply. I'd learned that silence can say everything, words can't. Then came the letter, handwritten, shaky, folded neatly in my mailbox. I can't eat or sleep. I see that map every time I close my eyes. I know I can't fix it, but please believe me when I say I loved you. I just lost myself. I read it once, then again, and then I burned it. Because love doesn't lie that perfectly. And apologies can't rewrite a GPS log. Weeks passed, and people started asking about her. I didn't tell the story with drama or bitterness. I just said, the truth came out. That was all anyone needed to know. Her reputation didn't survive long. Word spread through her family, her friends, even her workplace. Some pitied her, others distanced themselves. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't stop it either. Karma doesn't need help, it just needs time. One evening, while I was locking up at work, I saw her standing by the parking lot. She looked smaller somehow, pale, tired, her confidence gone. She called out my name, voice trembling. Darren, please, can we talk? I looked at her for a moment, then said softly, we already did. She tried to speak again, but I turned and walked away. No anger, no satisfaction, just peace. Because some endings aren't explosions. They're quiet, steady exits that finally free you from the wreckage. And as I drove home that night, I didn't check my GPS once. I didn't need to. For the first time in months, I knew exactly where I was going. Months passed before I realized what peace actually sounded like. It wasn't silence. It was the sound of a phone that didn't ring, a door that didn't open for another lie, a mind that didn't race with doubt. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anything. I was free. Emma never came back to the house. Her sister dropped off her remaining things, clothes, books, and a framed picture of us smiling on our old porch. I didn't keep it. I donated everything, even the frame. It wasn't bitterness, it was cleansing. Some memories don't deserve to be recycled. I moved my desk to face the window. Every morning, sunlight hit the same spot on the table, the one where her GPS map once glowed. That screen used to show me betrayal. Now, it showed reflection. Sometimes I'd catch myself wondering if she still thought about me, if she regretted everything. But then I'd remember, regret is easy, change isn't. Work got better. Friends came back into my life. The guys started inviting me out again, and I said yes, not because I needed distraction, but because I finally wanted connection. For the first time in years, I didn't have to explain my mood or defend my instincts. I didn't have to question myself. One night, an unknown number texted me. The message was short. I saw your promotion announcement. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry. No name, no signature, but I didn't need one. I stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it without replying. Because the truth is, I didn't need closure from her. I already had it. She'd taught me something painful but necessary. Love without trust is just a performance. As weeks turned into months, life started to feel light again. I bought a dog, started hiking, even took that trip to Chicago I'd once given up for her. Standing there, overlooking the city skyline, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was grateful. Because her betrayal didn't destroy me, it rebuilt me. The GPS that once exposed her lies had done something else too. It guided me back to myself. Every turn, every pin, every route she took away from home, it was a map leading me right here, to clarity, to peace. Now, when people ask what happened between us, I just smile and say, her story ended where mine began. Because that's the truth. Endings aren't always tragedies. Sometimes they're just doors finally closing, better ones can open. And as I watched the sun set over Chicago that evening, I whispered one last thank you, not to her, but to the man who finally chose himself over a lie. This is how my wife betrayed me. Should I forgive or move on? Tell me in comments. If this story made you feel something real, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the truth always finds its way home.